The first white flake landed on Linette Orrow's banishment order before Wolf Prince Edric Sael finished calling her a forger. It did not melt. Snow had no place inside the Winter Conservatory. The glass roof held an iron-gray sky, and every brazier burned with blue wolf fire. The Queen's winter ink had been made to survive fire, damp, and burial. It did not answer love. It did not pity widows. Memory snow surfaced only when later preservation ink tried to sit above an older hand. Linette raised her eyes to him. He stood beneath the carved silver wolves of the succession dice, his black hair drawn away from a face hardened by command. No crown rested on him yet. The regency still stood between prince and throne. At his right hand, Dowager Aunt Morwen Sael held 3 letters in a white fur glove. These were written by Queen Elswith during the prince's 15th winter, Morwen said. Each passed through Linette Orrow's keeping. Each contains a later line in archive ink. Linette knew the letters. She had dried the first beside Elswith's sickbed. She had carried the second through a siege corridor. She had hidden the third inside her mourning chest when palace soldiers searched every drawer after the Queen's death. Edric had been 17 when Linette finally placed them in his hands. He had read them beside this frozen fountain while she stood close enough to hear his wolf break its first low sound of grief. Now Morwen displayed the sentences that had shaped him. I cannot return for you. The kingdom must survive without my claim. Forget the promises of childhood. You kept the originals, Edric said. You alone catalogued the later copies. I kept what your mother entrusted to me. You entered these lines. No. Morwen placed the archive register beside the letters. The additions match the brown preservation ink assigned to Linette's desk. The folio cords were resealed under her keeper's knot. No other hand had lawful access. Lawful access, Linette said. Not sole access. Morwen's expression held patient correction. You were his first attachment. When he withdrew from you and accepted an alliance betrothal, you retained the one part of him no counsel could reach, his memories of his mother. Linette's widowhood had taught the palace how to make silence look like guilt. Her husband, Avon Orrow, had died in a border winter 5 years earlier. She had returned to the archive in black, guarding Edric's family letters, because the dead could no longer defend what they meant. Edric looked at the papers rather than at her. Did you change my mother's words to keep me dependent on you? No. Did you ever withhold one of her letters? Yes. During the coup winter, your aunt's guards were opening private dispatches. Your mother ordered me to keep the final letter outside the palace until the succession chamber was secure. Morwen gave a quiet breath. Queen Elswith was fevered. Linette has always used that confusion to enlarge her authority. Bring the final letter, Edric said. It is not in the royal archive. His wolf stirred behind his eyes. Only Linette knew what the pale silver tightening meant. Since youth, Edric's wolf had gone silent whenever he read the letters describing his mother's abandonment. He hid that silence because a prince whose wolf rejected family scent could be declared unstable for succession. Morwen had built a regency around the wound. Where is it? He asked. Beyond your aunt's reach. And beyond mine. Yes. Morwen stepped closer. The archive cannot remain under a keeper who decides which royal memories the prince may possess. Linette turned to Edric. When we were 18, you asked whether I would ever make your grief easier by lying. He remembered. She saw it in the way his hand closed around the seal. You promised you would not. I kept that promise. Then why did you never tell me the letters had been altered? I did not know they had been altered. You expect me to believe the keeper of my mother's hand failed to recognize 3 false lines? I expect you to ask how later ink entered a locked folio instead of deciding the widow with the key wanted your pain. The first snowflake split into 6 bright crystals. Edric did not look down. You had years to speak, and you had one question to ask me before exile. Linette removed the archive key from her waist. It was silver, shaped like a running wolf. She placed it on the black table, beside an inventory slip, listing every sealed folio under her care. I request an independent inklayer examination, a full key custody review, and preservation of all discarded drafts from the Queen's last winter. Morwen answered first. The Regency Archive will conduct the review. The accused office cannot investigate the archive it is receiving. You are no longer in a position to set terms. Edric pressed his seal into the order. Linette Orrow, you are banished from the inner palace before nightfall. The Royal Correspondence Archive passes to Dowager Morwen Sael until the Succession Council concludes its review. The seal darkened. Something colder than winter moved through Linette, but she did not ask him to reconsider. Then record one more thing, Edric said. Speak. You did not lose the truth today. You chose custody over inquiry. She turned before he could answer. At the conservatory doors, a second flake touched her sleeve, then a third. Snow began falling beneath the glass roof. It settled across the letters in Morwen's hands, the archive register, and the black table where Linette's key remained. Wherever it touched old ink, the white surface darkened from beneath. A second version of Queen Elswith's final sentence appeared below the first. I cannot return for you faded under the snow. Older words rose through the page. If Morwen takes the Regency, Linette must get you beyond the palace walls. The old words did not accuse Morwen of the false lines. They proved the Queen had named danger before the archive named Linette. Across the marble floor, snowy footprints formed, one after another, retracing steps taken years before. They did not lead toward Linette. They crossed behind the succession dais and ended at the sealed door of Morwen Sael's private archive. The footprints did not prove Morwen had written the false lines. They proved the Queen's hidden ink had once passed through a room Linette had never been allowed to enter. The snow had not named the hand, it had named the custody path. Edric ordered every letter, key, and registry page placed beneath separate winter seals before anyone entered Morwen Sael's private archive. The memory snow continued to fall beneath the conservatory glass, but no one was permitted to follow the footprints yet. 3 independent witnesses were summoned: a monastery ink conservator, a succession clerk outside the Regency office, and an old wolf law notary whose oath barred service to either branch of House Sael. Morwen remained beside the sealed door. Queen Elswith feared many things during coup winter, she said. Fear is not proof of forgery. Private archive custody may prove protection, transfer, or emergency concealment. It does not clear Linette either, Edric said. Linette looked at the banishment order still dark beneath his seal. No. You made certain of that before the ink had cooled under witness. His jaw tightened. He did not apologize. Instead, he ordered the 3 disputed letters preserved exactly as the snow had exposed them. No washing, no scraping, no Regency handling. Morwen's expression hardened by a fraction. The banished keeper cannot participate in a royal examination. She will not control it, Edric said. Linette Orrow is granted temporary ink layer witness standing for these 3 letters only. Linette did not move toward the table. Do not call me witness. While my archive key is still lying beneath your banishment seal, your authority remains suspended. Then record that the Crown requires my knowledge, while refusing the office that made it lawful. The succession clerk wrote the sentence. Only then did Linette approach. The monastery conservator, Sister Avrapel, placed the first letter beneath a frost glass lens. Queen Elswith's original ink contained powdered winter salt, soot from white pine, and a trace of royal wolf blood used to bind the hand against damp. The later brown lines contained preservation resin from the Regency stores. Can you date the layers? Edric asked. Within a season, perhaps, Avra said. Not to a day. She warmed the page from beneath, while Linette named the Queen's stroke habits, the downward hook of her E, the narrow spacing after grief, heavy words, the pressure break caused by an old injury in her ring finger. The memory snow did nothing. It had already revealed the buried line. It did not interpret motive, assign authorship, or answer questions the paper itself could not bear. Avra separated the layers by resin age. The false sentence had been added after Queen Elswith's death. The second letter showed the same. So did the third. Silence moved through the conservatory. Morwen was the first to speak. Linette had access after the Queen died. She catalogued the folios, repaired their cords, and kept one letter outside the palace entirely. Linette did not deny it. I had post-death access to the royal archive. I did not have access to your private room, unless the footprints are incomplete. They may be, Avra said. Memory snow preserves disturbed roots around overwritten winter ink. It does not record every person who crossed a floor. Morwen turned to Edric. Then the anomaly has proven only that someone used regency resin after the Queen's death. Linette's desk held the same resin. Assigned resin, Linette said. Not exclusive resin. Edric ordered the preservation stores sealed. The quartermaster produced issue ledgers for the year after Elswith died. Linette's desk received 2 small resin jars, both recorded by weight. One remained half full when the archive was inventoried. The second had been surrendered unopened during coup searches. Morwen's private archive received 6 jars under emergency regency authority. For flood protection, Morwen said. The western record rooms had cracked windows. Were Queen Elswith's letters listed among the protected materials? Linette asked. No. Then why did her hidden ink pass through your room? I do not know that it did. The snow may be retracing the movement of preservation materials, not the letters. Avra considered the footprints. The crystals formed where old winter ink and later resin shared contact. That usually indicates the page itself crossed the route. Usually is not certainty. The examination had narrowed the path. It had not named the hand. Edric ordered the key custody books opened. Linette's silver running wolf key had been logged out to her until the night after Queen Elswith's burial. That appeared damning until the mourning chest register was brought from the widow archives. Under border widow law, Linette had sealed the key inside Avanoro's mourning chest before leaving for his death vigil. 3 witnesses had signed the chest closed. The wax remained unbroken for 11 days. The false ink had been added during that interval. Morwen's counsel objected. A key sealed in a chest does not prove no copy existed. No lawful copy existed, Linette said. Lawful access is not sole access, Morwen returned, giving Linette's own words back to her. The old wolf law notary, Master Corvin Hale, requested every emergency key held by the Regency. 2 opened-only treasury rooms. 1 opened succession vaults. The 4th, a black iron key marked with Morwen's Regency crescent, opened both the private archive and the Queen's correspondence chamber under coup protocol. Morwen did not deny possessing it. The kingdom was under threat. The regent required access to all royal records. Who logged its use? Edric asked. My chamber clerk. The clerk had died 3 winters earlier. The key book remained. Its entries were neat until the week after Elswith's burial. On one night, the Regency key had entered Morwen's private archive after midnight and returned before dawn. The same page carried a second entry, written in thinner ink, claiming the key had never left its hook. Avra tested both layers. The denial had been added later. Morwen stared at the page. That proves a false custody entry. It does not prove I used the key, altered the letters, or ordered anyone else to do so. She was right, but the date matched the resin age in all 3 false lines. Linette looked at Edric. You asked the seal before you asked the keeper. His wolf stirred once behind his eyes and went silent again. The final custody note was turned over. On its reverse, beneath a strip of Regency wax, appeared a routing mark directing Queen Elswith's 3 letters into Morwen's private archive that same night. The mark did not prove Morin had written the false lines. It proved the letters had entered the room, she said, had only protected records on the night the newer ink was born. At dawn, 4 separate seals were cut from Winter Sael's private archive, while Linette watched from outside the threshold. The old Wolflaw notary held one key, Sister Avrapel held another, Edric kept the third, and fourth Remeau. Emergency routing during cool winter saved half the royal correspondence, Morwen said. You have proven regency custody, not regency forgery. Edric looked at the banishment order clipped beside the witness book, opened the room. He did not revoke the order. He did not apologize. Instead, he extended Linette's temporary standing from 3 disputed letters to the full custody path that had carried them. Do not widen my witness standing and call it trust, she said. I am not. You preserve every page now because the snow embarrassed your seal. His face hardened, but he did not deny it. The private archive smelled of cedar resin, old wool, and iron frost. Narrow cabinets lined the walls. Each bore a regency crescent, rather than the running wolf mark used in the Queen's correspondence chamber. No memory snow entered. Its work had ended at the threshold. What remained had to be proved by paper, fiber, ink, access, and human choice. Morwen ordered the first cabinet opened herself. Inside lay flood-damaged tax rolls, succession drafts, and emergency copies of royal decrees. Nothing connected to Queen Elswith appeared in the inventory. The second cabinet held discarded preservation sheets. Sister Avra lifted them one by one with bone tongs. These are not letters, Morwen said. They are scrap used for testing resin strength. Then the fibers should be mixed, Linette replied. They were not. 9 sheets came from the same white pine pulp as Queen Elswith's personal stationery. 3 carried trimmed edges, matching the narrow loss along the disputed letters. Avra aligned one fragment beneath frost glass. The torn fibers met. The same paper stock, she said. Possibly the same cutting batch. Possibly, Morwen repeated. Not certainly. Linette agreed. Then test the sizing. The Queen's paper had been treated with winter salt and powdered blue iris, so the ink would remain legible after damp burial. The discarded drafts carried the same ratio. The 3 altered letters did as well. Edric stepped closer to the table. Why were Queen-grade sheets stored here after her death? Morwen's answer came without hesitation. Because royal paper was too valuable to destroy during a succession crisis. Scraps were retained for seals, repairs, and emergency copies. Were they listed? No. Why not? Because scrap was not treated as correspondence. Linette looked across the unnumbered sheets. Anything unlisted becomes easy to use without leaving a name. Morvemeterchase. And anything hidden by a banished keeper becomes easy to call sacred after the fact. The blow was precise. Linette did not flinch. My final letter is still sealed outside this palace. You have not touched it, or you have shaped the entire accusation around the one page no witness may examine. Edric's wolf stirred faintly behind his eyes. Linette saw the silver tighten, then vanish. You needed 3 witnesses and winter itself before my question became lawful, she said. Do not use the letter I protected to make your first refusal look reasonable. Edric turned to the next cabinet. Open it. The drawer contained practice sheets. At first, they looked like ordinary pen exercises, repeated capitals, line spacing, pressure drills, and imitation royal hooks used by conservators repairing damaged names. Then, Linette saw the E. Queen Elswith's E descended with a broken lower curve because of the injury in her ring finger. The practice pages copied that break again and again. Some attempts were crude. Later ones were nearly perfect. Avra examined the resin age, all written after the Queen's death. Morwen's counsel stepped forward. Archive conservators practiced dead hands to restore damaged text. That is not forgery. Who authorized these exercises? Edric asked. No name appears, Avra said. The upper corners carried only a regency training mark. Morwen remained calm. My office preserved succession documents. Reproducing a royal hand for damaged headings was lawful when witnessed. Where are the witness marks? Linette asked. Morwen looked at the sheets. There were none. The draft chain continued through 3 stages. First, isolated letters. Then whole words copied from Ellsworth's known correspondence. Finally, complete sentences written in her hand, but not found in any surviving original. I cannot return for you. The kingdom must survive without my claim. Forget the promises of childhood. Edric's hand closed against the table edge. The sheets proved someone inside the Regency archive had practiced the exact false lines after the Queen died. They did not yet prove Morwen wrote them, ordered them, or knew they were placed over the originals. Morwen said so. This room served 6 clerks, 2 conservators, and 3 succession advocates. You have found an unauthorized practice chain, not my hand. Who supervised them? Edric asked. I did. Who controlled the keys? The Regency office. Who benefited when those sentences shaped my claim? Morwen's eyes cooled. The kingdom benefited when a wounded prince stopped waiting for a dead queen to return. His wolf went silent so completely that even the brazier flame seemed loud. Linette remembered him at 17, reading the first altered sentence beside the frozen fountain. His hand had trembled then. His wolf had withdrawn not from grief alone, but from a message written to sever the scent of belonging. The false lines did not only wound the prince, she said. They trained his wolf to go silent. Morwen answered carefully. His wolf silence began during succession strain. That was the healer's finding. Which healer? Edric asked. No one answered. At the bottom of the drawer lay a narrow medical practice sheet, folded inside a Regency memorandum sleeve. Avra opened it beneath witness glass. The front contained repeated copies of Queen Ellsworth's hand. The reverse carried notes in a different script. Maternal correspondence provokes withdrawal response. Royal wolf ceases scent recognition after abandonment language. Condition may support extended regency under succession instability provision. Below the diagnosis sat a routing instruction to Morwen Sael's private counsel. The sheet did not prove Morwen had created the silence. It proved someone in her regency measured it, connected it to the altered letters, and prepared to use the wound as law. It did not yet prove Morwen had written the wound into him. It proved her counsel had found the wound useful enough to preserve. Edric ordered the private council chamber sealed before sunrise, and summoned the wolf healer whose hand matched the diagnosis sheet. The banishment order remained clipped to the witness book. Linette's temporary standing was widened only far enough to review whether altered correspondence had been used to create or measure succession injury. Her archive key remained beneath Edric's seal. Morwen Sael entered with counsel. A Regency council measures succession risk, she said. That is duty, not conspiracy. Recording the prince's wolf silence does not mean we caused it. No, Linette said. It means you knew which words made it worse. That has not been proved. The named healer arrived under oath. Royal wolf healer Nollis Wren was 70, narrow-faced, and nearly blind in his left eye. He had served Queen Ellsworth during her last winter and examined Edric through the first years of the Regency. He recognized the diagnosis sheet. The medical hand is mine. Edric's voice remained level. Did you write the succession recommendation? No. I recorded the response. The legal conclusion was added later. Sister Avra placed the page beneath frost glass. The healer's ink had dried first. The sentence about extended regency sat above it in a darker resin layer. Who received your original findings? Linette asked. The private council. Did you diagnose natural instability? I diagnosed withdrawal of royal wolf response during maternal correspondence. That is not the same thing. No. Morwen's counsel leaned forward. Grief, war, and succession strain can all produce withdrawal. They can, Nollis said. Then the letters may have coincided with the silence rather than caused it. They may have. Morwen looked toward Edric. The kingdom needed stability, while grief made you unreachable. We assessed the danger before rival packs could use it. Linette kept her attention on the healer. Show us the sequence. The medical register was brought from the sealed wolf infirmary. Before Edric received the first altered letter, Nollis had recorded restless sleep, aggression during council scent tests, and repeated attempts by the prince's wolf to track his mother's trail through the northern gates. After the first letter, scent-seeking stopped. After the second, Edric's wolf no longer answered objects carrying Queen Elswith's hand. After the third, the wolf withdrew whenever maternal abandonment language was read aloud. Nollis had written in the margin, "Response is specific to message, not general grief stimulus." Morwen read it twice. "You did not include that distinction in your council summary." "I did." The council copy was opened. The sentence was gone. In its place appeared, "Maternal grief confirms unstable succession response." The alteration had been made after Nollis signed. The missing distinction did not prove Morwen ordered its removal. The private council included 5 members, 2 advocates, and a recording clerk. Edric turned to Linette. "What comparison would distinguish the hand from the meaning? You still have not revoked the first false sentence you wrote today." The banishment order lay between them. His face tightened. "I asked what comparison you require. 1 sentence in your mother's true hand. Nothing from the final letter. Use the older layer already exposed beneath the second disputed page." Morwen objected. "You would provoke a royal wolf inside a succession hearing. You used the response to govern him for years," Linette said. "Now you fear observing it under witness?" Edric ordered the comparison prepared. Avra separated only enough later resin to reveal 1 complete sentence beneath the false line. "The kingdom must survive without my claim." The Queen's older words emerged. "My claim matters less than bringing my son home alive." "No memory snow fell. No magic," interpreted the sentence. Avra verified the winter salt ink, Queen Elswith's broken E, and the pressure failure in her injured finger. Nollis confirmed the page predated her death. Edric stood at the center of the chamber, while the old wolf law notary read the false sentence first. "The kingdom must survive without my claim." Silver withdrew from Edric's eyes. His shoulders locked. The wolf behind them went silent. Then the notary read the older line. "My claim matters less than bringing my son home alive." For 1 breath, nothing changed. Then a low sound moved through Edric's chest. Not a growl. Recognition. Silver returned around his pupils and remained there. His wolf drew 1 sharp breath toward the page, as though scent had crossed years of sealed rooms. Edric gripped the witness rail. Linette did not go to him. His wolf did not reject his mother, she said. It rejected the lie wearing her hand. Nollis looked shaken. The response was conditioned by the abandonment phrasing. "Conditioned?" Morwen asked. "Repeated exposure can teach a wolf which scent, memory to avoid. The false lines did not silence him once. They taught him what not to answer." Morwen's composure held. "That still does not prove anyone intended the response. The letters may have been altered for political clarity, then produced an effect no one expected. The diagnosis sheet shows the effect was measured," Linette said. "Measured after it appeared, and preserved after it became useful." Edric recovered enough to speak. "Open the private council minutes." Morwen's council objected that regency deliberations were sealed by succession law. Edric invoked emergency review over evidence that the same council had used medical injury to justify its continuing authority. The minutes arrived in 6 winter-bound volumes. Linette's standing was extended to succession injury review only. She was not restored as archive keeper and could not remove or reseal any page. "Do not widen my exclusion and call it honor," she said. "I am not." The earliest minutes described genuine threats. Border wolves refusing a minor heir, rival houses contesting Elswith's absence, and concern that Edric's silence would be read as bloodline failure. Morwen had not invented the political danger. She had argued that a silent royal wolf could fracture the kingdom before the succession vote. Later entries became narrower. Delay maternal correspondence review. Restrict access to original Queen Hand materials. Route all abandonment language copies through private counsel. Nollis denied recommending any of those measures. Morwen said the council sought to prevent repeated distress. If protection was the aim, Linette said, why preserve the words that caused it and restrict the words that relieved it? No answer appeared in the medical record. The 5th volume held the meeting conducted 2 nights after the altered 3rd letter was read to Edric. 3 pages had been cut away. The stubs remained numbered. Orrow warmed the binding and lifted a transfer impression from the page that had once rested against them. Most of the text was incomplete. One line remained clear: maintain abandonment language until succession vote. The first crack appeared in the witness rail before anyone could lift the cut-page impression from the council volume. Edric's hand tightened around the black wood. Silver flooded his eyes, then vanished so violently that the carved rails split beneath his palm. 2 wolf guards reached for restraint chains. "Do not put silver on him," Linette said. Mourning Sael turned sharply. "His wolf is unstable. His wolf is responding to the same language your council preserved." Edric's breathing shortened. The old abandonment sentence still lay open beside the newly exposed instruction. Maintain abandonment language until succession vote. Linette did not touch him. Remove every altered letter from his sight. Open the northern vent. Read the Queen's verified sentence once, not twice. The old wolf law notary obeyed. "My claim matters less than bringing my son home alive." The silver returned around Edric's pupils by degrees. His wolf did not settle completely, but the pressure in the chamber changed. He released the broken rail. Morwen watched him recover. "A conditioned response does not prove deliberate conditioning," she said. "The council may have preserved familiar language to avoid worsening his distress before the vote." "You preserved the words that silenced him," Linette answered, "and restricted the words that brought him back, because contradictory maternal messages could have fractured an already contested succession, or because a silent prince required a regent." Edric raised one hand before Morwen could reply. "Reconstruct the missing pages." He did not revoke Linette's banishment. He did not return her key. He extended her standing only to the removed council record and the effect of maternal correspondence on his wolf. Linette looked at the order as the clerk entered it. "You are opening the room that trained your silence, while my banishment still calls me the liar. I know what the order says. Knowing is not correcting." "No." The answer held no comfort. Sister Orrow worked over the page stubs with frost glass, low heat, and transfer powder. The first missing sheet had rested long enough against the binding to leave partial impressions. A date emerged, then a vote count, then 3 incomplete lines. Maternal recovery materials to remain restricted. Original keeper-held document, not to enter royal archive before succession determination. Public narrative of abandonment to remain undisturbed. Morwen's counsel objected. Public narrative may refer to diplomatic messaging, not forged correspondence. "It may," Orrow said. "The impression cannot show the full paragraph." Morwen faced Edric. The rival pacts believed Queen Elswith had abandoned her claim. Reversing that account days before the vote could have triggered civil challenge. "You knew another account existed," he said. "The council knew Linette claimed to hold an unsurrendered letter." "Claimed?" Morwen looked at Linette. "She refused to produce it, because the Queen ordered me not to place it under regency custody, and no living witness confirmed that order." Your council's minutes confirm you feared what the page contained. They confirm we feared an unverified document, appearing at the most dangerous moment in the succession. The distinction remained possible. The second removed page left less impression. It named a council recorder, Halric Voss. He was still alive. Once chief regency scribe, Halric had retired to a monastery archive beyond the south wall. Edric sent crown guards with the wolf law notary, not Morwen's officers. While they waited, Linette requested the Winter Gate books. Morwen objected immediately. Those records concern military movement, not correspondence. The hidden sentence instructed me to take Edric beyond the palace walls if you assumed the regency. If the council knew I held that order, the gates matter. Edric's gaze shifted to her. You attempted to remove me? I attempted to obey your mother. When? The night your aunt took emergency authority. You never told me. You were 15, fevered, and surrounded by guards who reported every word to the regency. You chose for me. Yes, the admission struck cleanly. Linette did not soften it. I chose to move a sick boy before the woman his mother feared controlled every gate. I failed. Morwen stepped toward the witness table, or you attempted to abduct the heir under cover of royal confusion. That is why we opened the gatebook. The Northern Gate Register showed Linette arriving before dawn with a medical travel writ, 2 winter horses, and a sealed carriage. Edric's name did not appear. The captain had refused passage because a regency closure order reached the gate 12 minutes earlier. The closure carried Morwen's emergency seal. That order closed every palace gate, Morwen said. Armed factions were moving through the city. Did you know Linette was coming? Edric asked. No. The gatebook could not answer. A second document lay beneath the closure order, a messenger receipt showing that news of Linette's carriage had reached the private council 20 minutes before the gates were sealed. The messenger's source was listed only as inner household. The record proved the council knew she was moving toward the northern gate. It did not prove Morwen closed the palace solely to stop her. Halric Voss arrived near dusk, stooped beneath grey monastery robes and carrying the tremor of age in both hands. He recognized the cut council volume. I recorded the meeting. Who ordered the pages removed? Edric asked. The removal came years later. By whom? A preservation instruction from the Regency archive. Morwen did not deny that her office issued such instructions. What did the missing minutes say? Linette asked. Halric looked at her for a long moment. That Queen Elswith's final letter must not be allowed to restore the prince's maternal bond before the succession vote. Silence settled over the chamber. Did Morwen Sael say those words? Edric asked. No. The council advocate did. Under whose policy? The private council voted 4-1. Who voted against? Halric's eyes moved to Linette. Queen Elswith's former wolf healer. Nollis Wren closed his eyes. Halric continued. The third page recorded the action after the vote. Avra lifted the final transfer impression from the binding. Only one sentence remained complete. If Keeper Orrow attempts removal, seize the letter before it reaches the prince. The page did not prove Morwen had forged the letters. It proved the Regency had known Linette carried a competing truth and had treated stopping it as succession policy. Morwen's transfer officers reached the Widow Archive before the Crown Preservation Riders. By the time Linette entered the snow-dark courtyard, 4 men in Regency grey had lifted Avanoro's mourning chest from its stone niche. The chest held no jewels. It held her sealed archive key during the winter, Queen Elswith's final letter, and the custody proofs that had kept both beyond palace reach. Set it down, Linette said. The senior officer raised Edric's banishment order. Royal correspondence held by the former keeper passes to the Regency archive. That chest is protected by widow custody. It contains crown property. Then crown law must request it. Regency transfer cannot take it by assumption. The men did not lower the chest. Edric crossed the courtyard behind her with the wolf law notary. and 6 crown guards. Winter Sael followed beneath a white fur hood, her council carrying the preservation order that had arrived too late. "Set it down," Edric said. This time, the officers obeyed. Linette looked at the seal bearing his hand. "You did not only give away my office. You nearly gave away the 1 page your mother kept outside theirs. I have stopped the transfer. After your order began it." He did not answer with regret. He ordered the chest preserved beneath widow law, crown law, and independent witness. Linette's banishment remained active. Her standing expanded only to the custody and authentication of Queen Elswith's final letter. "Temporary again," she said. "Yes, because the crown needs the truth more quickly than it can admit it wronged the keeper." The notary entered her words. Morwen faced the Widow Archive's chief custodian, Mera Doss. Why was royal correspondence accepted into a private mourning repository? Because Queen Elswith's messenger carried a living custody instruction, Mera said. And because Linette's husband witnessed the deposit without claiming access. Morwen's gaze shifted to the chest. Avenoro knew what his wife concealed from the heir. He knew she carried a sealed page under royal winter wax. Mera answered. He did not read it. Linette rested one hand on the dark wood. Avon understood that guarding the dead is not the same as owning their words. Edric's eyes lowered briefly. The chest bore 3 seals. Linette's widow mark remained whole. Avon's witness seal had cracked naturally with age but showed no lift. Queen Elswith's white wolf wax still covered the inner letter case. Sister Ravra examined the edges. No reheating, no later resin. The inner case has not been opened since deposit. Morwen did not retreat. An unopened letter may still contain delusion, political manipulation, or instructions issued during fever. It may, Linette said. Authenticity is not the same as wisdom. The first custody packet contained the Queen's messenger receipt, dated 2 nights before Elswith's death. The second recorded Linette's deposit at the Widow Archive. The third held 3 rejected seizure petitions from the Regency Council. The earliest petition was filed 4 days after the burial. The second came before the succession vote. The third demanded the letter after Edric's alliance betrothal was announced. Morwen's signature appeared only on the last. My office sought all undisclosed royal documents, she said. A hidden letter could have destabilized the claim. The first 2 petitions came from your private counsel, Edric said, understanding succession procedure, before anyone accused Linette of forgery, because she was withholding crown material. The petitions proved that the Regency wanted the letter. They did not prove why, or that Morwen knew its full contents. Mera opened the denial register. Widow law had refused each seizure because no petition identified a direct threat to life, inheritance, or active war command. The final letter remained sealed. Edric looked at Linette. Why did you not use the widow court to send it to me after the vote? Because the Queen's instruction required you to be free of Regency custody. I held my own counsel. Your aunt controlled its archive, your wolf reports, and every page used to judge whether you were fit to rule. You decided I was not free. I observed that you were not. The truth angered him because it left no easy place to stand, Morwen said. And she preserved that judgment for years while remaining close enough to influence you. Linette turned. I left the palace when he accepted the alliance betrothal. I married another man. I returned only after widow law assigned me the Queen's correspondence. Stop calling a woman's disciplined custody romantic possession, because it makes her easier to discredit. No one answered. Avra examined the outer address. To my son Edric, when no regent may decide which of my words he is permitted to hear. The hand matched Elswith's verified winter script. The wax, paper, and pressure break. All predated her death. Edric's wolf moved behind his eyes, but did not withdraw. Morwen read the line, without visible fear. The Queen opposed every regency. Once illness weakened her judgment. Then the full letter must be examined. Edric said. Not here, Linette replied. His gaze hardened. You still set terms. I preserve conditions. This courtyard contains the office that tried 3 times to seize the page, and the prince whose current order nearly completed the transfer. The letter opens under a public witness chamber, with the false copies, healer records, and council minutes present. You do not trust me with my mother's words. I trusted you with my answer. Before you trusted me with one question. He held her gaze, then ordered the conditions entered. The chest would move under divided custody to the Winter Conservatory. Linette would carry no key. Morwen would hold no seal. Avra and the Wolf-Law notary would control the inner case. Before they closed the custody packet, Mayra produced one final ledger. 3 copies of the outer address were requested before the succession vote, she said. By whom? Edric asked. The private council. Morwen's counsel said, an address is not the letter. No, Mayra agreed. But each request included the number of folds, the position of the Queen's seal, and the tear along the lower edge. Avra examined the unopened case. All 3 details matched. Someone inside the Regency Council had possessed a description precise enough to reconstruct the final letter's exterior, while the original remained sealed beyond palace walls. The copy requests were dated 1 week before the 3 altered abandonment letters were distributed to the succession voters. By morning, 3 succession envoys had demanded that Edric's fitness be judged before Queen Elswith's final letter was opened. Winter Sael stood behind the petition. If the prince's wolf can be provoked by maternal language, the kingdom must know whether he can hear this document without losing command, she said. That is not punishment. It is succession duty. Linette looked at the public witness table in the Winter Conservatory. Her silver archive key still lay beneath the banishment seal. You used the silence to justify the regency, she said. Now, you use the damage your counsel preserved to decide whether he may hear the truth. Morwen's Chaser did not move. The council did not create his response. That remains under inquiry. Edric ordered the fitness petition attached to the existing record rather than heard first. The letter opens before any new judgment is made from the wound these documents may have shaped. He did not revoke Linette's banishment. He extended her temporary standing only to authentication of the final letter and comparison with the false maternal copies. Another narrow permission, she said. Yes. You still have not corrected the broad accusation. No. The answer did not ask her to mistake procedure for remorse. The mourning chest entered beneath divided custody. Sister Avra Pell carried the inner letter case. Master Corvin Hale held the widow law seal. Linette walked beside them, without touching either. On the evidence table lay the 3 exterior copy requests from the Regency Council. Avra compared their measurements with the sealed original. The fold count matched. The lower edge tear matched. The White Wolf seal had been drawn with a shallow chip at the left ear, a flaw too small to appear in an ordinary written description. Morwen's counsel said, a palace messenger may have seen the case before deposit. Then the messenger must be identified, Linette replied. The request slips named no observer. A retired regency binder was brought from the lower record rooms. Pelin Saw had prepared the exterior copies before the succession vote. I was told the council needed authentication models, he said. Did you see the original? Edric asked. No. What were you given? A wax impression, fold measurements, and a charcoal rubbing of the torn edge. From whom? The private council's document office. Signed by whom? No personal name, only the council seal. The copies did not prove Morwen had opened the widow chest or personally commissioned a counterfeit letter. They proved her counsel possessed a physical impression of a sealed object it officially claimed never to have examined. Avra opened a flat storage case recovered from Morwen's private archive. Inside, lay one of Pellen's reconstructed wrappers. It had been folded around 3 blank sheets, cut to the weight of Queen Elswith's stationery. Across the outer face, a Regency advocate had written, "Expected final maternal directive, consistent with abandonment record." Morwen read the notation. "A legal office may prepare for disputed evidence." "Before seeing the evidence?" Linette asked. "Before allowing a hidden document to overturn a succession. You prepared its meaning before you possessed its words." A low growl moved through Edric's chest. The succession envoys stepped back. Morwen's counsel immediately pointed to the reaction. "This is precisely the instability the petition addresses." Linette turned to Edric. "Look at the seal, not the sentence." His eyes had gone almost colorless. She did not approach him. "The copied wrapper is not your mother's hand. It is what the council expected her to say." His breathing steadied by one measure. "Read nothing else until the false materials are covered," she ordered. One envoy objected. "She does not command the prince." "No," Edric said. "She controls the comparison." The false wrappers and altered letters were placed beneath black cloth. Silver returned around his pupils. The wolf response had again followed abandonment language, but the chamber had also introduced threat, public scrutiny, and succession pressure. Nolus Wren entered all 3 variables into the medical record. No one could honestly call the reaction proof of a single cause. Linette faced Avra. "Open only the outer fold." Morwen said, "The entire letter should be read if it is to carry legal force. Not before the first layer is authenticated." Edric agreed. Avra cut Queen Elswith's white wolf wax along its original fracture. The case opened, without resistance. Inside lay a letter folded around a second, smaller packet. The outer page carried no preservation resin. No later hand sat above it. Winter salt brightened beneath the witness lamps. Avra verified the Queen's broken E, injured finger pressure, paper sizing, and living wolf blood binder. Then Linette read the first paragraph. "My son, I did not leave because I ceased to love you, nor because your claim burdened me. I left the palace because the Regency had begun placing words before you that I had not written, and because my illness gave others lawful reasons to call every protest confusion." Edric did not move. His wolf drew one deep breath toward the page. Morwen's face remained controlled. Queen Elswith suspected many officers during fever. Her belief is evidence of fear, not proof that any particular person altered a letter. Linette nodded. "The Queen's statement does not convict you. It did something else. It contradicted the abandonment account before the succession vote and explained why the final letter had been kept outside Regency custody." Edric looked at Linette. "You knew this paragraph?" "No. I carried the sealed case. I did not read what was not mine." "Then why risk removing me?" "Because your mother's separate instruction named the risk, not the contents." The smaller packet bore Linette's name. Morwen objected before anyone touched it. "A private instruction to the keeper may contain no lawful succession authority. Then it will be authenticated before it is interpreted," Linette said. Avra turned the packet beneath the frost glass. Its seal was genuine. Across the back, Queen Elswith had written one line, "For Linette Orrow, if my son has already been taught to believe I abandoned him." Beneath that line, pressed faintly into the paper from an enclosed page, appeared the beginning of another sentence. The first altered letter was copied from a draft kept in the Winter Conservatory's frost channel. Before Sister Avra could lift the smaller packet, Linette ordered the Winter Conservatory's frost channels sealed against heat. A palace maintenance bell had begun sounding beneath the marble floor. Morwen Sael looked toward the vent grills. The channels purge at 8th bell. They have done so every week for 20 years. "Then stop the purge," Linette said. "You have no authority over the frostworks." Edric turned to the winter steward. "Close every heat gate beneath this chamber. Preserve all frost, channel contents, under witness." The steward hesitated. The purge proceeds under standing regency maintenance law. If the channels remain sealed, pressure may crack the eastern glass. Then release pressure through the garden vents, Linette said. Not across the evidence route. A standing did not cover palace maintenance. Edric extended it to preservation of materials named in Queen Elswith's authenticated packet. Temporary again, Linette said. Yes, and my banishment still calls me the forger. Yes. He did not ask her to mistake compliance for repair. Workers opened the garden vents. White vapor rolled beneath the glass roof, while the blue wolf fire braziers dimmed. No memory snow fell. The air held only ordinary frost and the smell of old stone. Morwen's council watched the maintenance register arrive. The weekly purge predates this inquiry. Do not turn routine heat into attempted destruction. Linette agreed. Routine can destroy evidence without anyone intending it. That is why preservation comes before accusation. The frost channels ran beneath the conservatory in 6 narrow trenches lined with silver slate. Meltwater carried damaged paper fibers toward the palace gardens, where they dissolved into irrigation beds. The Queen had once used the channels to test winter ink. Page-moment resistance were discarded there. Morwen folded her hands. You may find scraps from every royal scribe who served this palace. Presence in the channel will not prove use in the altered letters. No, Linette said. Fiber, ink, sequence, and custody may prove more. The western grill was lifted first. Beneath it lay only ice, pine needles, and blackened fragments too old to read. The second channel held tax draft corners and succession headings. The third contained a packet frozen flat beneath clear ice. Avra loosened it with cold salt rather than heat. The outer wrapper bore no name. Inside were 4 sheets written in imitations of Queen Elswith's hand. One sentence began as a genuine line copied from an earlier letter. I cannot return before the northern road is safe for you. On the next draft, before the northern road is safe for you had been scraped away. A later hand replaced it with, I cannot return for you. Edric's wolf withdrew before the sentence was read aloud. Linette covered the line. The false abandonment was not composed whole. It was cut from a true sentence until caution became rejection. Morwen's face remained controlled. An unauthorized copyist could have practiced distortion without council approval. Who had access to this channel? Edric asked. The maintenance book listed winter scribes, conservators, 2 regency clerks, and the Queen's former household staff. One name appeared beside 3 after-midnight entries. Odell Marr, junior copyist to the private council. Odell had vanished during the southern border riots 12 years earlier. Morwen said. He deserted with council silver. If he altered royal letters, that may explain why. It may, Linette replied. The second recovered sheet carried Odell's copyist nick along the lower edge. It also carried correction marks in another hand. The marks did not resemble Morwen's script. Avra identified them as editorial instructions. Shorten maternal assurance. Remove return condition. Preserve queen hand rhythm. No signature appeared. A crescent-shaped pinhole pierced each page, where a Regency review clip had once held them together. That clip was used by the entire private council, Morwen said. Then the council chain must be opened, Edric answered. Morwen's council objected that the private council had already surrendered its minutes. Minutes record decisions. Review clips record drafts. Linette looked toward the sealed packet addressed to her. Do not open more of the Queen's words until the copied chain is preserved. Her letter named the place. It did not tell us to destroy sequence by rushing toward revelation. Edric held her gaze. You keep setting conditions around what belongs to me. I keep evidence from becoming another grief you are asked to believe without proof. He said nothing. The 4th frost channel contained a narrow wooden tray trapped beneath the ice. Inside lay discarded seal tests, 3 broken quills, and a bundle of folded routing slips. Most had bled beyond reading. One remained protected by waxed linen. It directed Odile Mar to prepare maternal correspondence variants for succession review. The instruction came from the private counsel document office. Below it appeared a purpose line. Test which phrasing suppresses scent-seeking response without provoking open challenge. Nollis Wren read the sentence twice. That is not medical treatment. No, Linette said. It is testing a wound for use. Morwen stepped closer. A draft instruction is not proof the tests were performed on Edric. Councils prepare contingencies they never use. The healer opened his old visit register. 3 dates matched the routing slip. On each, Edric had been summoned to the conservatory and given a different maternal passage to read. After the first, his wolf paced. After the second, it stopped scent-seeking for 1 night. After the third, the version later placed in the altered letter, it withdrew for 11 days. The records still did not name Morwen as author of the phrasing or show her present at the sessions. It proved the Regency did not merely observe the silence after it appeared. Someone inside its document office tested language until they found the sentence that produced it. Edric's hand closed around the edge of the witness table. Linette did not move toward him. You were not only lied to, she said. You were taught to punish the person who kept the truth outside their reach. He looked at the banishment order, then at her silver key beneath his seal. Before he could speak, Avra unfolded the final routing slip from the waxed bundle. It carried the date of Linette's failed attempt to take Edric through the northern gate. The instruction read, If Keeper Orrow cannot be detained without public notice, discredit her custody before the prince and transfer all maternal correspondence to Regency control. The order bore no personal signature, but its approval box carried the private regent's seal, reserved for Winter Sael alone. The seal did not prove Morwen wrote the false lines. It proved the order to discredit Linette had entered force under authority no deputy could claim. Edric stripped every Regency seal from the archive doors before the succession bells rang. Winter Sael's private key was placed under divided custody. Her officers were removed from the Queen's correspondence rooms, the Wolf Infirmary, and the Winter Conservatory Frostworks. No document could be transferred, copied, or burned without 3 independent witnesses. Morwen entered the public hearing without chains. You have found an abuse of Regency authority, she said. You have not proved I wrote the false lines. Linette stood beside Queen Elswith's sealed packet, her archive key still beneath Edric's earlier order. No, she said. The hand matters. So does the authority that ordered my custody discredited, restricted the true letters, tested abandonment language on a grieving boy, and used the silence it produced to extend the Regency. The Succession Council filled the conservatory tiers. Pack envoys, wolf law judges, palace scribes, healers, widow custodians, and household witnesses sat beneath the glass roof. Memory snow did not fall. The evidence no longer needed it. Sister Avra laid out the chain in order. The letters routed through Morwen's private archive, the posthumous practice sheets, the altered healer summary, the cut council pages, the frost-channel drafts, and the sealed order directing Linette's discredit under the private regent's seal. Each item proved less than the whole accusation alone. Together, they showed design. Morwen's counsel argued that the regent's seal had been applied to hundreds of emergency decisions. Did you authorize the order to discredit Keeper Orrow? Edric asked. I authorized protection of succession custody. That is not the language on the page. The document office condensed policy. Did you revoke it? I did not know its phrasing. Did you review the results? I reviewed the stability of the succession. Morwen did not confess to forgery. She defended the system that made authorship unnecessary. The kingdom stood within days of civil war, she said. Elswith was ill. Rival packs questioned her judgment. And you were a minor whose wolf vanished. whenever grief touched him. I chose one stable story over 6 competing truths. You chose the story that kept you necessary, Linette said. I chose the story that kept him alive. Edric's wolf flashed silver behind his eyes. Linette did not look away from Morwen. A lie may preserve a throne for a season. It cannot preserve the person seated on it. The smaller packet addressed to Linette was opened under widow law seal. Inside lay Queen Elswith's instruction, written before her death, and verified by Avra, Nollis Wren, and the wolf law notary. If Morwen assumes full regency, and my letters begin teaching Edric that I abandoned him, take him beyond the palace before the council names his wounded wolf unfit. Do not surrender this page to the Regency archive. Give it to him only when no keeper answers to the accusation it contains. The instruction did not grant Linette a crown, a bloodline, or secret power. It gave her a duty she had failed to complete. I reached the northern gate, Linette said. I did not get him through it. You tried, Edric said. And then I kept the letter while you learned to hate the person your mother trusted. Morwen's voice remained measured. Elswith's suspicion was not law. No, Linette replied. But your response to it became evidence. The council opened the final missing minute, reconstructed from Halric Voss's testimony and the Frost Channel transfer marks. It recorded the private vote after Linette's failed departure. 4 members approved maintaining the abandonment account until Edric's succession was secure. Nollis Wren objected. Morwen cast the deciding vote. The minute did not say she wrote the false sentences. It said she knew the abandonment account was constructed, knew it affected Edric's wolf, and chose to preserve it. The succession judges withdrew briefly. When they returned, they voided every extension of regency based on Edric's wolf silence. Morwen's authority ended immediately. She was placed under formal inquiry for unlawful archive seizure, medical record alteration, manipulation of succession evidence, and use of royal correspondence to impair a claimant's capacity. No one bowed to Linette. She had not asked them to. Edric lifted the banishment order from the witness book. I accused Linette Orrow of forging my mother's letters before testing how later ink entered a sealed folio. I transferred her office to the authority under suspicion. The order was issued without independent inquiry. He broke his seal across the page. The banishment is revoked as wrongful. Linette watched the wax split. A broken seal does not return the years inside it. No. He placed her silver running wolf key beside the restored letters. The Royal Correspondence Archive is returned to your custody. Linette did not take it. Custody? Under whose power? Edric understood. The new archive charter was read into the record before she touched the key. The Queen's private letters, widow-held royal instructions, and disputed succession documents would no longer belong to the Regency office. They would be held in an independent Crown Memory Archive governed by 3 custodians: the Royal House, the Widow Court, and an elected archive keeper. No regent could investigate an accusation against records held by the Regency itself. No prince could remove the elected keeper without an external wolf law hearing. The council elected Linette as first keeper of Crown memory. Only then did she take the key. Morwen looked at her across the snowless hall. You believe independent custody will remove politics from memory? No, Linette said. It will make politics leave a record when it touches memory. The 3 altered letters were restored beneath witness glass. The false preservation lines were lifted and retained as evidence rather than destroyed. Queen Elswith's older words remained visible beside them. Edric read each true sentence aloud. His wolf answered every one. Not with obedience, with recognition. The final page contained one more sealed line, addressed directly to him. Linette stopped before opening it. This belongs to you outside the hearing. Edric looked at the council, the broken banishment seal, and the woman he had condemned before, asking one question. "No," he said. The first words were hidden in public. The last truth should be restored there too. Avra opened the fold. Queen Elswith's final sentence appeared in the hand Edric's wolf had spent years being taught to fear. "I did not leave you, my son. I was kept from returning, and Linette was the last person I trusted to remember the difference." By noon, Linette closed the hearing ledger herself and carried Queen Elswith's restored letters out of the Winter Conservatory. Edric followed only as far as the outer doors. "You are leaving," he said. "My banishment is revoked. That does not mean I remain where it was issued. The archive has been returned to you. The archive has been removed from your power. That is not the same thing." Behind them, clerks dismantled the regency seals. Mourning Sael had been taken to a guarded residence pending wolf law trial. Her defense remained that the kingdom had needed one stable story, more than one grieving boy's unmanageable truth. Civil war had been close. Queen Elswith had been ill. Rival packs had tested the borders. Edric's wolf had withdrawn beneath pressure no child should have carried. But danger did not turn manipulation into care. It only explained why powerful people had preserved it. Linette held the running wolf key and the charter to the new Crown Memory Archive. It would stand beyond the inner palace wall in the old Winter Embassy, on land transferred permanently to its 3 custodians. The Crown could fund repairs. It could not own the shelves, appoint the keeper, or seize a private letter without an external hearing. For the first time, Linette's office possessed walls no prince could give away in anger. "You read my mother's last words before the court," Edric said. "You fulfilled what she asked." "No. She asked me to get you beyond the palace if the regency took control. I failed at the gate. You were stopped. I was stopped. I was also silent afterward, because every route to me passed through them. Because I told myself preservation was enough." She looked at the letters. "It was not enough for you to have the truth safe somewhere. You needed the chance to live differently because of it." Edric did not ask her to divide the blame more generously. "I banished you before asking how false ink entered locked pages," he said. "I gave your office to the authority your evidence questioned. I remembered your promise not to lie and used it against you when another answer hurt less. That is the first honest account you have given of your part. It is not an apology that repairs it. No, I know. The old tenderness between them did not return because he named the wound correctly." Linette left before he could ask her to stay. Winter passed into a hard spring. The Crown Memory Archive opened without royal banners. Widow custodians occupied the west wing. Monastery conservators took the north rooms. Succession records remained in the central vault, under 3-key law. Linette's first act as keeper of Crown Memory was to preserve the altered letters beside the originals. She refused to burn the false lines. "A kingdom must see not only what was true," she told the apprentice archivists, "but how authority taught a lie to look inherited." Morwen's trial lasted 11 weeks. No witness proved that she personally copied Queen Elswith's hand. The court did prove that she cast the deciding vote to preserve the abandonment account, authorized Linette's discredit, permitted medical responses to become succession evidence, and allowed regency custody to investigate its own records. Morwen lost every remaining claim to authority. The private council was dissolved. Its surviving members faced separate judgments according to what each had signed, concealed, or altered. Edric did not attend the archive unless summoned. He submitted his succession journals for independent review, including pages showing when his wolf first went silent. He surrendered the prince's right to close maternal correspondence on grounds of instability. He also ended the alliance betrothal that had become a diplomatic form without a marriage. He did not offer that act as proof of devotion. His wolf did not recover in a single revelation. Nollis Wren worked with him through the true letters, one sentence at a time. Some days the silver remained in Edric's eyes, Some days abandonment language still drove the wolf inward. Linette did not become his healer. When her expertise was needed, the archive answered through formal consultation. He came as a petitioner, not as a prince demanding access. In early summer, memory snow fell once inside the new archive. A junior clerk had placed a polished restoration line over a widow's damaged farewell because the original wording seemed too bitter for her children. Snow lifted the older ink. Linette stopped the correction and preserved both layers. Kindness without permission can become another form of theft, she said. On the anniversary of Queen Elswith's death, Edric came to the archive alone. Linette met him in the open reading room. Sunlight passed through frost glass across tables where royal and common letters rested under the same law. He carried no seal. "I came to ask for one page," he said. "Which page?" "The first letter I wrote after my mother disappeared." Linette brought it from the youth collection. The boy, Edric, had written 6 lines. 4 accused his mother of choosing the kingdom over him. The 5th had been scratched nearly through. The 6th remained clear. "Linette will tell me if the letter is a lie." Edric read it without looking away. "I trusted you before they taught me that trust was weakness. You remembered that only after you had power to punish me." "Yes, and first love does not survive unchanged because truth returns." "No." He folded the page along its original crease. "I am not asking you to become what we were." "What are you asking?" "To be allowed to become someone you may choose to know now." Linette considered him. Outside, palace bells marked the first succession session held without Regency archive control. She locked the youth letter back inside its case. "You may walk with me to the widow court," she said. "You will carry no guard, and you will not speak for me when they ask why the archive needs another Eastern vault." "I understand. That is not forgiveness." "I know. It is not a promise. I know that too." They left the reading room side by side, not as prince and keeper, and not as the young lovers' politics had interrupted. Behind them, Queen Elswith's restored letters remained under Linette's key. Ahead of them, no snow marked the path. For the first time, they would choose it without memory deciding where their feet had been.